Greetings, this is Robert, president of Hack and Slash Gaming. As you may or may not know, we have acquired the license rights to Ophidian 2350. Ophidian 2350 is a Gladiator Combat card game that was created back in 2003. It was created by a group of 4 guys who were avid Magic the Gathering players, and they were looking to create a game that was more on the strategic side. There's a long history that goes as to why Ophidian 2350 is not out and popular in the market today, and I'm not going to go into that in this video. What I am going to tell you is that we really loved the game back in '03, and we have acquired the license rights and are in the process of bringing the game back, along with several expansions in an upcoming Kickstarter. So, since we're a very new company and we're rushing to get things done, we've got a huge comic convention schedule and gaming convention schedule ahead of us. And we have not had time to properly make some high-end videos. But we did want to, have something to take with us to the next Comic-Con, which is over in Dallas. And so we scoured the old material that they had, and we found that there was a flash tutorial on the old Ophidian Games website. So I thought what I would do is go through this flash tutorial and basically add some additional editing to it, and then post this guy up on YouTube so you guys would get a chance to see how to play this game. In addition to that, I'm also going to put some links in here for an Ophidian rules summary, which is just a single-page PDF that you can download directly from our website. That will give you a quick overview and synopsis of the rules. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and read this tutorial, and obviously you could follow along with me or just skip it through it, or of course you can go to the old Ophidian Games website and see if you can find it yourself. But since everybody loves YouTube so much, let's just go ahead and walk through this. So, again, Ophidian 2350 tutorial, and I'm going to go ahead and start with part 1, the Gladiator Basics. So here we have our character David Dangers, otherwise known as Freak Show, and he's doing a little flavor text here. So, hey dudes and dudettes, in order to play Ophidian Arena, you first have to build your team. You can have up to 4 gladiators in your team at the start of the game. For an example, the following includes Berserker, Little Jinx version 9, and myself. And here's a quick display of the 4 gladiators chosen for this team. Basically, this is a 2-player game, although you can play it with 4 players. It has a different rule set, but I have a different video for that later. But again, basically you're going to have 2 players playing opposite each other in the same way as you would play many other deck building games. So each player is going to go ahead and select 4 gladiators. So you're going to start off your team with your gladiators on first level, and they're going to raise levels as the game goes on. The gladiators also have a victory point value, and this tells you how powerful they are. All gladiators start the game as level 1, 2, 3, or 4 victory point gladiators. So this particular character is 4 victory points. And here's a quick animation showing you that the gladiator cards are double-sided. So you're going to see like level 1, and you flip it over in level 2. And then of course there's another card actually that's level 3, and you flip it over and it's level 4. Note the little thing there showing you where the victory points are. The victory points are for determining the start up, and also it's one of the ways you win the game is by victory point counting up the tally for defeat, and we'll go over a little bit more of that in a minute. So each team must be made up of 10 victory points worth of gladiators. You can make your team any way you want. And then here's some flavor text talking about he needs a couple more points to get up to 10. So here's an animation showing you an example. So you have 1, 2, 3, and 4 equals 10. The victory points are again on the right middle of the card next to the VP. And so here you have a team, a 1 victory point, 2 victory point, 3 victory point, and 4 adds up to 10, so we're ready to go. So here are the victory conditions. Basically there's 3 ways to win. The first way is by destroying your opponent's entire team. The game goes on for 4 rounds, or waves, and if you haven't destroyed the entire team, then at the end of the 4th wave, whoever has the most victory points worth of gladiators will win. And then here's a little animation showing two people, one destroyed 3, one destroyed 7. It's pretty obvious who won. You can also win by getting 15 cheer. These are crowd points. If you get 15 cheer, the audience gets so excited, they'll jump in the arena and basically riot and tear your opponents to shreds. And even though it says we'll talk more about this later, I'm going to go ahead and talk about it right now. So cheer is one of the unique game mechanics of this game, because it can be used as a victory condition or it can be used as a resource. And basically the way you earn cheer is through the way that you fight. So in this game, there's going to be a lot of, obviously, one-on-one combat, but since you're playing 4 gladiators, you're actually playing as a team. So you actually get rewarded for behaving like a team. So in some cases, certain team members will jump in front of other team members to protect them. That revs the crowd up and you'll earn a cheer for that, and so forth. But anyway, like I said, we'll talk more about this later, and go ahead and go to the next animation. All right, so now they're going into the playing cards portion. We're going to skip over this retarded flavor text. And so now what they're doing is they're showing you that the cards that have the black back are the cards you're going to use in your hand, and those are the cards that are going to go into your arsenal. And basically, you can have 3 of each card, but no more than 3. Now, what it doesn't say here is that your arsenal, or basically the cards that you pull to form your hand, you'll have like a little deck, has to have at least 50 cards, can have more than 50 cards. And when you play this game, once you've got your minimum of 50 cards, prior to starting, you're going to shuffle your deck and your opponent's going to go ahead and cut it. And then you're going to go into the drawing the cards to go into your hand. But again, bottom line, you can have a maximum of 3 of the same type of card in your arsenal. When you start the game, draw 7 cards, and then additional 2 bonus cards for a total of 9. You look at your cards, then put 2 of them you don't want back at the bottom of your deck. Because you're going to get certain cards that are second level or higher right off the start, and you don't have any second level gladiators, then those are the type of cards that you would put to the bottom of your arsenal. In order to play a card, you need to have a gladiator at the same level or higher than the card that's going to be played. So basically, not all cards are created equal. You're going to have certain cards that are going to require higher level gladiators. You're going to have certain cards that require disciplines or skill sets that your gladiators have or don't have. If you don't have the appropriate gladiator of the right level or of the right discipline, then you can't play the card. So here it's just an animation showing you to compare the level and discipline and make sure you have a gladiator of the correct level and discipline of the card you're going to play. Each strategy card has a cost to it. So you're going to get 10 CP, they call them credit points in this game, plus the number of the wave you are in worth of CP at the start of each wave. So when you start a game in wave 1, you get 11 CP or 11 credit points. Wave 2, 12 credit points. Wave 3, 13 credit points. Wave 4, 14 credit points. And so that's one of the other unique things about this game is that this game is kind of a money management game. So you can have a handful of cards, but you really have to manage your credit points to be able to play all the cards that you want. And if you're not careful, you can actually spend more credit points and then end up with a hand with cards you can't play. In addition to the cost of playing the card, there's also a maintain cost for some cards. So some cards will have a cost which will allow you to pay that to keep that card into the next wave. To play a card, simply subtract the CP cost of the card from your total. The play cost is listed next to the P on the card, as shown in the next animation. See the little P there? Notice there's a little M on this one here. That shows the maintain cost. And the animation just does basic math, assuming you can't do basic math, I guess. There are 3 types of cards. And again, these are the cards with the black backings on them. Quick hits, pumps, and minions. So a quick hit has a short-term effect. Once you use the card, it just goes in the trash heap. So there's the text indicates the quick hit and what it does. You use it, and then it's discarded. Pumps are played on characters. These can be weapons, armor, diseases, or any other type of item. So again, when you play the pumps, keep track of the fact that there will be a maintain cost if you want to keep that card on the character, whether it's helping you or hurting somebody else, onto the next wave. And then there's minions. Minions are your support. They hang out in the field as gladiators, and they fight pretty much the same way that gladiators do. And then there's a text at the bottom that talks about minions coming into play in the backfield. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, but just keep that in mind. And now we're going to go learn the flow. So here again is the guy doing a little flavor text. I'll let you guys read that. But bottom line is, again, here's a unique game mechanic, and this is actually patented for Ophidian 2350. And it's, again, something that you don't see in a typical CCG. So basically, the Ophidian 2350 is completely done away with the traditional notion of turns as we know it. You know, one person takes a turn, the other person takes a turn. In this game, they use a concept called the flow, where each card will have a positive or negative value on it, or each action, such as attacking or retreating, will have a positive or negative value on it. And so if you're a very strategic player, you can kind of chain your cards to do one after the other, after the other, after the other, after the other, and make it to where your other opponent basically doesn't even get to play a turn. So again, you really kind of have to really know your cards and read them and take a look at the type of card it is, and again, whether it's a positive or negative card. Now I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next animation. So when you make a positive action, you keep the flow and can make another action after that. And you can see the little plus there. That indicates when you have a positive action. And cute little animation. Now you notice there it says you keep playing until your opponent stops you. Well, again, there's going to be some circumstances which your opponent can stop you. One of those is by spending cheer, which we talked about earlier. Remember I said you can use cheer as a victory point, or you can use it as a resource. So immediately after a person plays a card, but before they've resolved their next card or action, you can declare that you're going to spend one of your cheer points, and it basically changes their card into a negative and gives you your turn. There's also reactionary cards, which again have symbols on them like OR, DR, R, which you'll see in the animation coming up. And these are cards that you can play as a response to something that was done to you. And again, we'll see that animation here in just a second. And some of those things may or may not, stop the flow. Sometimes one must lose the flow in order for it to return. A negative flow action means your opponent takes the next action. This is a card's effect flow symbol. Since it is an effect, this card is already in play. If you use that effect, you lose flow. And this animation pretty much sums it up altogether. But we'll replay it one more time just so you can see it. And here's where we're talking about those response cards. And then actually this particular flavor text is talking about there's going to be some cards where you have to like roll a dice to determine if it's a positive or negative action. If you don't have the flow and you want to react to something your opponent has done, or if you have the flow and want to modify something you have done, you can use response cards. And these are the three forms they come in. So you've got OR, or offensive responses. You can use these cards only when you have the flow already. You have defensive responses, which you can use if you do not have the flow. Or you have just good old responses, which you can use anytime you want. So now we're going to go about actual combat training and how we gain cheer, which again we talked about earlier. And again, as I said, this is a huge change, huge difference between this game and other games because, again, you kind of have to decide ahead of time whether you're going to use cheer as a victory condition or whether you're going to use cheer as a resource. And again, this animation simply restating what I've already stated about how you can use your cheer as a resource to basically take the flow away from somebody and stop them from continuing to train cards on you or actions on you. During the wave, players will try to keep the flow. As players make actions, the flow will change hands many times until both players run out of actions. After a breather in which they get their energy back, they enter the next wave and the battle for the flow begins anew. And what this really means is that the play is going to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth until both players say pass. And when would a player pass? Well, when they can't do anything anymore, either because they've run out of money, run out of cards, run out of actions. Then they'll pass, and then the other person will do the same. And then they'll pass. Once both players have passed, then you're going to go into what's called the breather phase. The breather phase occurs in between each wave, and remember, there's 4 waves total. So technically, there's 3 breathers. And now we're going to talk about how actual combat occurs. All right, setting a card. Also, if the person says tapping, you get to punch them in the arm. No, I'm just kidding. But again, setting a card basically just means turning the card 90 degrees, and unsetting a card means to turn it back to its normal position. So the Ophidian arena, or the place where combat occurs, is actually broken up into 2 sections. You have an action field and a support field. You can only attack from the action field, which means your card has to be in the front portion of it. However, you can choose any target you want, even if they're in the support field. And we'll talk about the differences and why one card being in one place means one thing or the other. But bottom line is, in order to attack, you got to be in the front field. So again, the action field is for attacking and protecting others. The support field is for support and being protected from attack. So typically your weaker characters will be in the back. And then this text is basically saying that moving your card from the back to the front, or from the support to the action, is a positive and allows you to continue to keep the flow. And remember, when you bring a minion out, you're going to bring him out into the support field. But in order to attack with that minion, you'll have to move him into the action field. And this flavor text is basically saying if you treat a person, it's considered a negative action, and you will lose the flow. The other opponent will then get to take a turn. Now this animation actually tells me something that I didn't know in the rules, which is that if you retreat a character and they are not set, this will set them, meaning that they're done, they cannot attack or move forward. And here we're talking about the minions coming into the support field. And combat training, finally getting down to the good stuff. So if a character has a life total and an attack damage number, when you attack a character, you subtract their life total by the amount of damage they just took. So if one guy's got 6 life and I hit him for 5 damage, he is mostly dead. If you're fully dead, go through his clothes and look for loose change. Kind of funny little flavor text there. What I typically do is use a small dice to keep track of wounds. So if your gladiator's got 10 health and you have a little dice on, he takes 3 wounds, just put a little number 3 on him. That's probably the easiest way to do it. I'm just going to replay that animation one more time. So it shows you their attack value, shows you their life value. Now this is also a little happy face on there that they're not talking about. That's called rage. And I'll cover that at the very end of the video because for whatever reason they skip it in this. And this is just showing that if Little Jinx was to be killed, she's worth 2 victory points, so she dies. And again, if you don't eliminate all the gladiators, whoever has the most victory points at the end of the 4th wave is the winner. When you attack, you set the attacker. Attacking is a positive action. And you can only attack from the action field. You get a cheer point for attacking an unset character, and that's the key. The character has to be unset. If you attack somebody that's already set, you don't get a cheer for that. The crowd wants to see a battle, not a gladiator attacking someone when they're already down or set in this case. So I'll go ahead and read this because it's pretty important. You're probably wondering why there is a support field, so that you can protect your weaker characters from being killed off. As long as you have an unset gladiator in the action field, they can absorb the damage being targeted to the support field. This is kind of like standing in front of somebody and protecting them. So protecting doesn't really do anything for the person protecting other than to prevent damage going to one of the other guys. And so long as the original target was unset, a cheer point still generated for the attacker. However, intercepting is different than protecting. Protecting is when you're in the front row and you're protecting somebody in the back row. Intercepting is something that happens when you're in the same row as somebody. The crowds love intercepting. As long as you have an unset gladiator in the same field as the target, they can jump in front of the attack and become the new target. Just remember that if they intercept the attack, they have to set themselves. However, the crowd will award the interceptor the cheer over the attacker. Loyalty is a noble trait. So again, this goes back to playing as a team. So, and again, if you get a little confused here, basically remember this. If the characters are in the back, they can be protected by the ones in the front. The ones in the front, the only way they can protect is if the one to the right or the left of them intercepts, and that interception actually sets the character. Now, when you set the character, that character will then not be able to attack. So again, you really have to think about when you want to intercept. You can also intercept in the back row. So if you have 2 characters or 3 characters in the back row and somebody attacks them, you can choose not to protect them with the guy in the front, but instead intercept them with another guy in the same row. And again, interception will generate cheer. You can't intercept if you're already set. And then here's basically what I just said. And remember, 15 cheer automatically wins the game. If you want, I like to try to change the rules to tell it to do 13 cheer, makes it a little more difficult and keeps people from using cheer as a resource so much. But again, standard rules, 15 cheer automatically wins the game. So again, here's a little more flavor text. Basically, it's talking about different types of damage. The base gladiators have an A in front of their damage, meaning attack damage. If you see a card with X damage, it means that it cannot be intercepted or protected. However, whenever you use X damage, it doesn't generate any cheer. And here's an example. And we're coming to a close. So after all the combats and fighting and cheers and attacking and throwing cards out and all that good stuff, again, you're going to get to a situation where you've run out of credit points to pay for your cards, or you have no cards left to play, or everyone that you want to move into the front row to attack has attacked. At that point, each player will say pass, and then you move on to the breather. So now what you have to do is figure out who will start with the flow. So basically at this point, we're talking about when play resumes, who's going to go first? Well, basically you look at the gladiators with the most wounds, and this includes ones that have been killed. And whoever has the most wounds gets to start first. And again, you do have to count gladiators that were killed. So if one guy has, 2 killed gladiators and a couple wounds on another one, another guy has 1 killed gladiator and a couple wounds on 2 of their gladiators, you have to add all that stuff up. And again, whoever has the most wounds total on both dead and alive gladiators gets to start off the flow first. So, now you get to refresh yourself. Unset all your cards. Alright, so again, unset all your cards. You can use them. Discard any cards you don't want anymore and draw your hand back up to 9. Again, you're going to discard 2 cards at the bottom of your arsenal. Reset your credit points. And again, it's 10 credit points plus the wave you're in. You don't get to carry credit points over if you didn't use them. And the animation just kind of go over exactly what I just said. Now you want to pay any maintain costs of any cards that you want to keep into this wave that you played from the previous wave. If you don't want to pay the cost, or if the card has a skull symbol as its maintain cost, you just scrap the card. And there's a picture of the little... So now you're going to promote your gladiator to the next level. Simply flip the card over. And then also you're going to get to heal 1 wound. And the last thing you do is put your characters in either of the fields, the support or the action phase, or the action field. So basically you just pretty much reset how your cards however you want and figure out where you want to put your stronger, weaker characters. And that's it. The breather's over. Now the next wave begins. And here's pretty much the end of the flash tutorial that was on the old Ophidian Games website. The only other thing that it doesn't go over, you'll notice in this little text at the bottom, is zones and rage. So it also skips over this thing called reinforcements. So I'm just going to quickly tell you what those are to finish this video up. So basically rage, or raging, there's a little happy face on your gladiator with a number on it. And whenever your gladiator takes damage that's equal to or greater than the little purple sad face, they are now raging. If you attack them while they are unset, you take a damage, so it's like attacking a berserker. If you attack them when they are set, they unset. So basically what this means is, if they've already attacked and they're set, and then you attack them, they're going to unset, they'll be able to attack again. Now note, this doesn't apply when intercepting or protecting. And a gladiator cannot use rage effects during the action in which they became raging. So that's important too. Zone cards I don't go over. Really, in all honesty, there's very few zone cards in the first game. Some more coming in the expansion. But the zone cards basically change the entire battlefield. So if somebody plays a zone card, there's going to be different effects like reversing the flow, or everybody gets damage, or who knows. But only one zone card can be in play at any one time. If one player plays a zone card and another player plays a zone card, it basically goes over top of the zone card, and so forth and so on. So there's only one zone out at any one time. Zone cards are generally pretty rare. You won't see a whole lot of them again in the first set. And last but not least, this also thing called reinforcements, which is not covered here. So you can have one reinforcement gladiator. So there's going to be a card which will be a single-sided card and will be a level 0. So my apologies for any of the noise and whatever, but I can't do a recording in a quiet house. It's nearly impossible. Anyway, last but not least, reinforcements. Basically, you'll have a level 0 card. If you want to bring him in as a gladiator, you'll have to pay its maintenance cost, and then you'll be able to bring it in as a reinforcement. But you can't do that if you have already 4 gladiators on the field. You can only do that if they are 3 or less gladiators on the field. You may or may not even want to use a reinforcement because the reinforcement gladiator has a victory point on it, and if that person is to be killed, which they're generally kind of weak, then that could also turn the game tide into your opponent's favor. Well, that's really about it. My apologies for this not being the best and most professional video. We were in a rush to get out to the Dallas Comic-Con, and I'm trying to put something together that's really quick. Hopefully this little flash tutorial in this video will give you enough information to get you started playing the game. That's really about it. Check the links in the YouTube video, subscribe for further videos, and check our websites to see where we're going to be at. Hopefully you guys will have a good time at the latest con, and we'll be seeing you.